call to order. We have a quorum. Could we have the roll call, please, Mr. Management Analyst?
Absolutely. Mayor Sticks.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Whitman.
Here.
Councilmember Rule.
Here.
Councilmember Lang.
Here.
Councilmember Francina.
Here.
Thank you, Will. And welcome everyone to the March 26, 2024 meeting of the Ojai City Council. Will you please say the pledge for us, Will? Thank you. Thank you very much. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll move to approve.
And,
I'll second it.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, excellent. All right, I don't see any commission reports, so we will move on to presentations. We have presentation from the Chief of Police, Trina Newman, and Assistant City Manager Carl Alameda to present and review the 2023 City of Ojai crime statistics. Thank you, Chief Newman, and thank you, Mr. Assistant City Manager.
Madam Mayor, members of council, thank you. Trina Newman with the Ojai Police Department, and I'm here to present you the crime statistics for the city of Ojai. The crime statistics we capture are in accordance with the National Incident-Based Reporting System, also known as NIBRS, and it is reported to the Department of Justice on an annual basis. This review contains information compiled from our Sheriff's Crime Analysis Unit as well as records from the Ojai Police Department. And these statistics are compared to the previous year from 2022 and before. The Sheriff's Office uses these statistics to ensure appropriate coverage and delivery of services, as well as to gauge and determine whether or not our programs and policies are have an impact on the reduction of crime. I also want to say, for those that are watching or listening, you can also look at our crime statistics online at our website, venturasheriff.org. The statistics I'm presenting tonight are a little bit more in depth, so they may not be the same. With that, if you could go to the next slide, please. The first slide, this is an extremely basic overview of our patrol functions here in Ojai. So in 2023, we responded to over 3,000 calls for service. Those calls for service range from anywhere in between low-level report calls, barking dog nuisance calls, all the way up to investigations of criminal behavior, including weapons and serious injury, and everything in between. Our average response time listed here at 5.29 minutes, that is our response time for what we refer to as priority 1 calls, which are truly emergency calls where we respond with lights and sirens. So within the city, if someone calls for an emergency, we have an average response time of just over 5 minutes. In 2023, we made 243 arrests between both felony and misdemeanor arrests, and we also handled 42 non-injury and 22 injury traffic accidents in 2023. Next slide, please. Now, generally, when we look at statistics, we look at them in 2 categories, one being property crime and one being violent crime. This slide depicts our property crime numbers. So in 2023, we had an overall 8% reduction in property crimes. This category represents crimes of burglary, residential and commercial burglaries, as well as petty theft, grand theft, vehicle theft, and arson. And as you can see, the 2023 numbers are listed in the light green, if you can see that on the slide there, which is the column farthest to the left. So with exception of residential burglaries, all of our property crime numbers went down. We had 8 incidents of residential burglary in 2023. We made arrests in half of those. The other half, those cases, we were unable to establish any evidence, and there was a lack of any suspect information in those cases. Next slide, please. This particular slide shows the number of violent crimes by incident in the city of Ojai. In this category consists of homicides, rape, robbery, and aggravated assault. In 2023, as you can see, aggravated assault numbers were increased by a total of 7 incidents in 2023. Yes, that's correct, 7 incidents. This is actually consistent countywide. We not only saw this in Ojai, but we saw this in every jurisdiction within the county of Ventura. We believe that we're kind of getting back to pre-pandemic numbers when it comes to looking at person crimes. In all 7 of those incidents, we made arrests. So 100% clearance in terms of arrests for those cases. The degree of assaults and what we're looking at in terms of those incidents were neighbor disputes, domestic related, and then of course we also had a couple of incidents occur in our encampment. But again, all those were cleared by arrest. Next slide, please. This slide shows just the comparison of property crimes compared to violent crimes. So as you can see, majority of our crimes in Ojai are property crimes. In 2023, again, we had a decrease in property crimes versus the previous 2 years. I can say that I would rather see majority of property crimes versus violent crimes. Not that any crime is great, but I would rather see it in terms of property versus person-to-person violent crimes. Next slide, please. This is a count of arrests we had in the city of Ojai last year. So we did have a decrease in arrests. We had 33 felony arrests and 210 misdemeanor arrests. There was a significant decrease in misdemeanor arrests in 2023, which could be attributed to the fact that we did have a decrease in calls for service in 2023. Although they're not always related, there are a lot of factors that could determine that. Next slide, please. I know that traffic is of a major concern here in Ojai, so I did want to give some perspective on traffic citations that were issued in 2023. They range, again, from no registration to moving violations, illegal turning movements, speeding. We issued 288 traffic citations in 2023, and we do have plans to in talking with City Manager Ben Harvey, we have plans to look at some options for increasing our traffic enforcement. So more to come on that. Next slide, please. Before closing, and I do want to give time if anybody has any questions, but before closing, I just wanted to give kind of a quick recap in 2023 of some things we did in the community. Last year, we partnered with schools and participated in Read Across America, Red Ribbon Week. We held a bike rodeo in Oakview. We hosted Coffee with the Cop events last year. We had our Ojai Youth Explorer group attend a national event in Chandler, Arizona for the first time. We will and will continue to have services brought to our vulnerable population in terms of our backpack medicine and one-stop group. And in 2024, this is kind of exciting for us, and I think this may bring a lot of help to us here in terms of our encampment. But in 2024, the Board of Supervisors approved a full-time 8-person homeless liaison unit, which means we will be able to use those services from that unit. Every contract city will be able to use services from that unit. Then they will be able to assist us in issues with our encampment in terms of cleanup, enforcement, assistance with studying laws and regulations in regard to homeless camps. In 2024, we also created a full-time organized retail theft unit, which we don't have a lot of in Ojai. I think the couple incidents that we did have in 2023 were at Rite Aid. But again, this is a full-time unit that may be able to provide some assistance to us should we need assistance with investigations in terms of retail theft. For 2024, we'll continue to utilize grants from our Office of Traffic Safety to bolster our traffic enforcement. We will continue to use our COPS grants to also do our bike patrols and our foot patrols in the city. I know those are really popular, so we want to continue to do that. And in 2024, we also hope to continue with our community events. Last week, we were able to put on our Pizza with the Police, which the mayor attended, and it was a great turnout. So we hope to continue to do those as well. And with that, I will close, and if anyone has any questions, I'm available.
Thank you so much, Chief Newman. We are so grateful for you and all their diligence and data and your calm demeanor and being the first female chief of police in Ojai. That's a big deal, so
Thank
thank
you.
you. Any questions or comments from the council? Councilmember Francina?
Thank you. So I have 2 or 3 questions. Is this online, the slideshow?
It is not online. That was exclusively for today's presentation.
Okay, but now it is because it's part of the...
It will be part of this presentation.
Yeah, and it might be, well, it's at the beginning, so people can find it easily. That was one question. And then I heard you say Ojai City arrests, but the other statistics were Ojai Valley-wide, correct?
Yes. So are you talking about our statistics that are listed on our website?
No, just from the presentation.
That is all relating to the city specifically.
All of those statistics
All of those
were
statistics
just
are
city.
only within city limits.
Okay, but I heard you say that there was something at a robbery or shoplifting at Rite Aid.
Yes, that was not included in any of these statistics. I made reference to that because of our organized theft retail unit that would be able to assist us in that type of incident. But again, I realize that has no effect on the
Yeah.
city.
I guess if you divide it all up by 365 days, then it's not, but I was surprised at the statistics, so thank you for that. And that's all for now. Thank you. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? All right, thank you, Chief Newman. Much appreciated. All right, we will go ahead and move on to public communications.
Well,
First,
Actually, Mayor, if I could
I'm so sorry, Mr.
back
Sid.
on for
Carl?
presentations, which would be more appropriately an introduction, I would like to introduce to the community and the council our new recreation manager, Matt Davis, who's with us tonight, who joined us from the city of San Clemente down in Orange County. So, Matt, if you'd like to let the council know about your background and what you'll be doing with us.
Hi. So thank you guys for welcoming me. New to the city, new to the area. So originally from Seattle, Washington, and was most recently with the city of San Clemente. Very grateful to be here. My background, I have a recreation management degree from Central Washington University. I have a master's degree in public administration. I got 15 years of recreation management experience managing facilities and programs and staff. And so I'm really excited to be here. I feel like I have the best job in the city, and really excited for the future of what we can do for the facilities and the programs for the community. So really glad to be here.
Well, thank you so much for being here, Matt.
Thank you.
good.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
We're excited to work with you. Thank you.
I have a quick,
Yep.
just a quick comment. I assume you've been on the job a couple of weeks.
This is my second week.
This is your second week. Sarzati looks beautiful. They came in with new mulch. It just looks fabulous. So thank you very much for that. They worked 3 or 4 days, and it's just a beautiful park, and the mulch and the clearing up of it was lovely. So thank you very much for that. It's my district, so.
Great. Yeah, that's the
Um,
Public Works Department, so I can't take credit
Oh,
for that.
okay. Sorry about
but I'll
that.
t-
I
but
guess I
thank
should
you.
know that. I
Yeah.
guess I do now.
No, they do a great
but-
job.
Well, the park looks great, though.
Thank you. Yeah,
okay.
it's fun to get to leave at 5 o'clock, and I see the park's just full of kids and
Yeah.
all the sports. So it's a great feeling.
Yeah. Thank you. Welcome.
Thanks.
Welcome to town, Matt. Thank you. Good? Please, Chair Smitty.
Is that time?
It's past time, but we will make an excuse for you.
It's not fast, sorry.
Just a quickie. Hi, everybody. We're celebrating a couple things this month over the Arts Commission. First of all, I want to acknowledge and recognize Leslie Rule. She has been our liaison for the last 3 months, and she has had, I complimented her to her face this week that she has shown her face more than anyone else has been since I've been chair, and I want to just thank her for the meetings that you've had with us. She's the one council person has sat down and gone over the actual in detail, the 5-year plan with me. So you all continue to have an open invitation to do that, we hope. And the other thing, I just want to thank you in advance for tonight for To do our plan, we need commissioners, and I saw on the consent items that we may just get one tonight. And I just want to thank you for moving on that, all of you, council. And that's it. The only watch for education seminars this month, and we'll also be starting a mentor program where we're going to have 10 different artists from the Valley paired with young people, teenagers from the Valley for a job shadow program. That's part of this as well. That's what I have.
Thank you, Chair Smitty.
I want to
Yes.
make a comment. I appreciate your recognition of Councilwoman Leslie Rule. I think that's very important because I'm a big fan of attending in person when possible. But I also want to say that there were no meetings when I was the liaison, so you can't fault
I
me for
didn't mean
that.
to single anyone out for not
I
being
know.
around.
Oh, well,
I just
anyway.
wanted to.
And I know
Thank
that
her for her
Councilwoman
service.
Rachel Lang, I think she attended all the meetings, and
Who's
we all-
next? Is it
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I actually did hand on them.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I have good coffee at my house too. So. I
All
recommend.
right, thank you
just
very
very
much, Chair
quickly,
Smitty. Yes,
I
Councilmember
just
Rule.
wanted to say that the upcoming, as I understand it, the upcoming educational offering is the elevator speech. Is that correct?
Yes.
And
we
I
have
wanted
a-
to say I think that that's excellent. Even though I don't consider myself an artist in that way, I would like an elevator speech.
Mhm.
So I think I'm going to come.
I think everyone should.
Yeah,
have an
I think
elevator
so,
speech.
yes.
That's elevator speech. Pretty much is when do you stop talking, not when do you
Yeah,
start.
well,
Yeah.
All of us should
Oh,
be
yeah, yeah.
attending.
You're-
Yes.
you're
Thank you
invited.
very much.
Elevator ride.
Yes, that is the less is more. Thank you, Chair Smitty. Okay, we will go ahead and move on to public communication. So let's begin with Leonard Clafe, then Andy Gilman, and then Star Child.
Leonard Clafe, I live in the city of Ojai. I had two things I wanted to talk about. I'm going to add a third. 17 moving violations, which include speeding, turns, and et cetera, are grossly insufficient considering the problem we have with vehicles that speed through Ojai. And I hope that that number like triples or quadruples. And if you do that for a year, you probably won't have to do it again. So please. In a related matter, when I was here 2 weeks ago, I called your attention and asked for your assistance with respect to Caltrans leaving holes at our intersections. Mayor Sticks told me that there was something on the council website. I went to it, and it was a PR piece from Caltrans, which said that they were working on the curbs February 8th and 9th. And which is kind of silly. That may have been the last time they worked on them. It may have been the last time they intend to work on them. So I sent off another note saying, nobody's been here. We have holes in the ground at intersections, at major intersections. In addition, if you're standing in front of the Ojai Pharmacy, getting ready to cross Ojai Avenue to the post office, the ramp that they just built is to the left of the intersection. So if a car comes up, stops before it gets to the crosswalk, and somebody comes down the ramp in a wheelchair, they will crash into the front fender of the car. You would think that Caltrans knows how to build a curb ramp, but they don't. So again, they're not paying any attention to me. I don't know if they'll pay any attention to you, but I think there's a better chance that they'll pay attention to you than they will to me. So I would ask the council again to please attempt to do something to get the holes in the ground filled before somebody really gets badly hurt. That's second thing. Third thing, I have 43 seconds. Councilmember Rule is starting a petition drive to get the pickleball courts reopened. That will result in a cost to the city of several thousands of dollars to administer an election and perhaps several $1,000s more if there is a lawsuit, if the initiative passes. It is not the first time Councilmember Rule has taken steps that have resulted in grossly excessive costs to the city, and you're supposed to be representing the city, not costing the city money. Thank you.
Excuse me, I'd
Thank you.
respond to
And
that
can
very
I just,
briefly.
can I just remind council, if you could bring it through the chair before you begin to speak and we,
My
yeah.
question
Yeah.
was, I'd like to respond, was what I said.
yeah, if you can wait till we have communication, please go ahead.
That would be my way to communicate. You have absolutely no right saying that I started that initiative. You have no right to say that. You have no evidence that that's true. And once again,
You were out collecting signatures.
Just to remind
on
me,
Sunday.
just
That-
a reminder, this is
that
not a time.
absolutely does not mean that I started the initiative. Thank you. Thank you for correcting yourself and your information. I appreciate it, Mr. Clave.
I think that's an
Okay.
important difference.
Thank you, Lenny. Thank you. All right, we're going to end now. Excuse me, could we please have silence, please? And just, Lenny, I will be circling back to you about the traffic next week. We'll have a meeting. Okay, thank you. All right, next we have Andy Gilman, then Star Child, and then David Chapman.
Andy Gilman, live in Ojai. Greetings, council and staff. Before I start to say what I'm going to say, we did a really wonderful interview with Ben Harvey that I'm going to be sending him the link to tonight, and I hope it comes out this week. But I felt much more confident, not that I wasn't confident, but so excited to hear him speak, and I think it's great for Ojai. So good job on the hire. I want to say that. I have been concerned for a long time and have deliberated for a long time, and it should be no surprise that I have announced that I'm going to run for mayor in 2024. And I'm not going to focus on policy here. It's all on my website, Andy Gilman for Ojai. But I will say, if I had to say it in one or two words, it would be compromise and goodwill. That would be my main focus here. And what I hope to do today is to set a stage and a tone to say, we have tolerated campaigns that reflect our national spirit, which I want to say in Ojai, we are small enough and mighty enough to not have to do that. So what I'd like to propose is the following buck from the national trend on campaigns with the following things. Number one, whoever runs for office, I suggest that we agree on a campaign spending limit, and that anything raised in support of our campaigns, we divert it to Ojai's nonprofits. Number two, anybody who's lived here for a while knows we had this very strange phenomena of lawn signs up and down Ojai Avenue. Let's just avoid that whole thing and all agree not to have lawn signs and use the money for Ojai's nonprofits. I would love us to agree on that. Number three, and this is the most important one, when our supporters go onto social media and want to trash the other candidate for some particular personality or anecdote or historical reference or something like that, we candidates go onto that platform and say, thank you, supporter. This campaign won't run this way. We're going to focus on the issues. We're going to speak with each other. We're going to say what we intend to do coming up in the campaign. I hope that we can set a new tone for how campaigns go. And then lastly, number four, I hope that whoever does run and whoever is finally elected reaches out to those other candidates for advice, because I think that's an issue that I'm hoping that I can help address, which is we're not speaking to each other well and not trusting each other well. There's a lack of goodwill in this room, generally speaking. So I hope that we can achieve what's been missing, which is a trust within this group and a trust from outside for the group. Thank you.
Thank you, Andy. Next we have Star Child, then David Chapman, and then Jill Dolan.
Hi, good evening. I want to talk a little bit about the REACH ordinance and some of the litigation you're going to talk about.
I couldn't understand what you just said.
Oh,
I mean,
Is this
not
on?
that it was
Oh.
just, I don't know why.
it was too mumbly. Okay. Good evening. I want to talk a little bit about the REACH ordinance tonight and some of the litigation you're going to talk about in closed session. I wanted to start out by saying that I very much am in favor of the environment. I personally try and use as little gas as possible. I have an induction stovetop that I put on top of my gas stove at my rental, and I never use the gas stove. I have an electric oven that I bake bread in, and it works just fine. But I do want to say that I think some people, for whatever reason, want gas stoves or gas dryers or gas whatever. And I think that the city council can achieve the goal of having less carbon emissions and still allow those people their choice too. One thing we might consider is incentivizing electric appliances, maybe giving some money to reduce the cost so that our neighbors can afford electric appliances. Right now, the REACH ordinance only reaches those people who are building new houses, the handful of people who are building new ADUs. The over 90% of people who aren't building a new house aren't reached by the REACH ordinance, but they could be reached by a subsidy on electric appliances. Also, it might avoid some very costly litigation. Perhaps, council thinks that they'll win this lawsuit. I don't think that's a certainty, but I think that there is a certainty that council could reach an agreement, perhaps an extra fee to hook up gas that could be used to pay for somebody else to put in an electric dryer, and then you still have the same amount of emissions. So I want to try and support an idea of compromise tonight. And I think there is a compromise that can reach the goal of less emissions and also allow the property owner in this case to have their preference and for the city to have less emissions as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Starchild. Next, we have David Chapman, then Jill Dolan.
Hello, David Chapman. I live on South Blanche, just around the corner. First of all, I'd like to express my thanks to Mayor Sticks, the council, and the city administrators for all your efforts in cleaning up the homeless encampment and providing the wilderness tents for the homeless population. Our group of concerned neighbours that are surrounding the encampment have organised and formed the Better Solutions for Ojai group. Our mission is to ensure that the City of Ojai designates a appropriate permanent housing site able to serve the needs of the growing homeless population. We look forward to having the green areas and creek restored to their original condition prior to the inception of the encampment. Despite these efforts, however, the neighbourhoods surrounding the City Hall campus continue to experience negative disruptions. At a recent neighbourhood meeting, we learnt that one of the camp's occupants was hitting golf balls across the creek into the residents' yards living on Crestview Drive, endangering pets and children enjoying their outside areas. In fact, the resident brought a bag of 21 golf balls that she had collected during the last month or so. Or I'm not quite sure of the actual time frame, but there was a collection of 21 golf balls she brought to show us. We would like the City Council to acknowledge that the current site is completely inappropriate for the permanent location of this project. We would also like the City Council members to acknowledge the profound impact the encampment has had on surrounding neighbourhoods. We urge the Council and Mayor to continue to work and support City administrators to find an alternative site for the encampment, one that would accommodate the population needing housing, one that would minimise disruption to family neighbourhoods, and one that would better serve the needs of the growing homeless population. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Next, we have Jill Dolan.
Hello, council people. You haven't seen me for a while. Well, I'm back. And so I'm not even going to make you guess what I'm here to talk about. The Art Center's upcoming production of Deer. Who has their tickets? I want to know. Raise the hands. Did you guys know that it's our 85th anniversary? You knew that, right? And you knew that, people out there in TV land, the Art Center is owned by the community. It's not owned by the city. We're proudly independent, and we're celebrating our 85th anniversary, and we want everybody to come to all of our events. Every branch is planning something, but I'm here for the theater branch, and we're doing this show called Deer. And though it may look really cutesy, it's definitely for an adult audience, okay? It's very funny, but it's edgy. But you guys are all grown-ups here, and I think that if I don't see you over there, I'm going to be really disappointed, and I'll be back. I'll be back, and I'll tell you again. So it opens this Friday night. It's got an amazing cast of 2 people. It's dark. It's kind of grisly, but it's very funny, and I encourage you to come. And then after that, we'll be doing Spam-A-Lot. Who could not like that, right? A little classic action. The Crucible's coming up, and then a Christmas show. So please join us in our 85th anniversary. Every branch has got something going on that's exciting. We're going to do history things, and I don't know. I really think seeing you there makes our community stronger, and I appreciate it when I do see you at our events. So thank you very much. Look, I've got a minute spare. I'll hand out some postcards. Anybody? Postcard? Thank you.
Thank you, Jill. Much appreciated. Will, any comments online?
Yes, we do have 2 comments online currently.
John, I see that you have for items 2 and 3 for closed session, so we'll wait and take comments before that. Thank you.
So the first hand online is for Peter Laramendi. Peter, you can unmute yourself.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, Peter Laramendi, and I'm a registered voter on Mercer Avenue. I just wanted to talk about the curbs as well that Leonard was talking about, particularly on North Montgomery at the corner there of Chevron. That sidewalk entrance has been closed for almost 3 months, and then in various stages of disarray, as well as the sidewalk or the light entrance there at the Chaparral Auditorium has also been in a stage of disarray for over 2 months. And it's kind of ridiculous at this point. And I've emailed Assemblyman Bennett and have gotten no response. So I would hope the city can put some sort of pressure on Caltrans, especially now that, I know that Ojai is continually a tourist town, but it's going to ramp up here pretty soon. And so having safe sidewalks for people to walk on is ideal. So thank you.
Thank you, Peter.
Next we have Renee. Renee, you can unmute your mic.
Good evening, members of the council. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Just 3 quick comments. One, I noticed that Bill Miley sent in an email to the council about benches and places for elderly and all of us actually to be able to sit down and congregate in our community. I think it's a great idea. I was fortunate enough to spend some time in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico last year, and they had a parks commission that worked together with an arts commission project. And they created the most beautiful mosaic benches I've ever seen in my life. And they made these mosaic benches available around their park in various areas. And they allowed the work for the mosaics to be done and paid for by local artists. It was a beautiful, beautiful project. Actually, down there, it was actually funded by somebody who paid to have it done. But I could see that being done through an arts commission project and the city council and the park and rec. So anyway, that's one comment. I would love to see more sitting areas downtown. The other one, I agree wholeheartedly about the REACH code and making the REACH code more user-friendly and something that you invite people to participate in. The comments that were just mentioned, I totally, heartily agree with his comments that we need to be encouraging energy conservation, and everybody can be stepping forward and doing something today. And those are the kinds of steps our city should be taking action on rather than punishing people like Mr. Chassé, who's coming up in your hearing. I think that's just atrocious, and I'm violently opposed to that. I think we need to do more. Let's talk about it. Let's figure out good ways to do it. I also read the comment about the 90-day ADU limit that was submitted, the very thoughtful comment about ADU limits. And please avoid further lawsuits against the city by imposing that kind of restriction. It's really onerous, it's not well-founded, and it's not well thought out. And I hope you reconsider that. Looking forward to seeing options. Thank you.
Thank you, Renee. That's it, Will? Oh.
One remaining comment.
Okay, let's take one more.
I want to make a quick comment to Renee's comment, which I'm allowed to do. Sure. Yeah. Yes. And I just want to assure Renee and anyone else who's listening about the benches that we've brought this up many times. And at the parking committee, I reminded the people that participated that this was not just about car parking, it was also people parking, bike parking, you know, and the more we have people parking, the less car parking we're going to need. Because people can, if they want to carry their groceries home and they know they can't walk, 2 miles without sitting down, if they know there's a bench in a beautiful spot, they're more apt to walk. So we should take that request very seriously, that Bill Miley, I don't think he's here tonight, I know that if he was able to be here, he would be speaking about the benches at the podium. So anyway, did I go over a minute? Sorry.
We do have one more comment in the house. Vana Doresian, is that how you pronounce it, Vana? Say it one more time. Takeshian. Okay, thank you.
I'm a little too short for this mic. Good evening, Mayor Sticks and City Council members. My name is Vana Dekessian, and I'm a freshman at Villanova Preparatory School. The issue I'd like to present to you today is the overpopulation of non-native plants in Ojai. Looking at the mountains from a distance, you can easily overlook the amount of non-native plants there really are, and how many of them are harming our environment. Native plants provide several animals with resources such as homes and food, and etc., while a non-native plant takes up space and doesn't really provide as many resources. Allowing more native plants to have their turf back is important, but who's going to do this job? 19.4% of Ojai's population are people under the age of 18. Being a part of that population, I know most high schoolers have a service hour requirement at their school in order to move on to the next grade. And advertising the removal of non-native plants and the planting of native plants as a way to earn service hours could really bring you a large amount of that high school community. However, it's not just the high school students that are unaware of this volunteering opportunity. In order to get the rest of the community's attention and support, we have to be able to advertise in town with banners, posters, signs, and other forms of advertisement. And we also noticed how on city property there are numerous non-native plants, and the youth council would like to humbly ask the city council to consider removing those non-native plants for the benefit of our environment. Thank you all so much for your time and consideration. Have a wonderful evening.
Thank you, Vana. And next youth council, we will definitely make a plan to get that going. Thank you.
Could I make a
yes, sure.
Through the mayor? I just wanted to let you know that I read in the paper today, I think, that PAX Environmental and also Crew, which is the age is up to 23, but it starts in high school, are going to be restoring San Antonio Creek at Soul Park from Boardman. So I think that it would be a great opportunity. Their idea is to pull out all of the invasives and to promote, the local flora, I'm sorry. So, that might be something to hook into because they're going to start work and they're going to have, a real plan So yeah, and I was very glad to see that, and thank you for bringing it up. It's really, really, really
Of
important.
course. Thank you.
I also want to
Yes,
say something.
Councilmember Francina.
First of all, you're like an incredible speaker. When I was your age, there's just no way I would have had the nerve to speak so wonderfully.
Thank you.
It's
Thank
wonderful.
you so much.
But I do want to say that be careful saying that non-native plants, the animals love non-native plants also. And unfortunately, when the eucalyptus trees were cut at the meadows, were cut down, many, many little animals lost their life. I know this firsthand from a wildlife rehabilitator, because many times people don't realize that little, newborns, they're burying under the ground. So I hope that any removal is done thoughtfully, and especially during nesting season. You have to be really, really careful.
Of course, yes.
And the whole issue of non-native plants, if you want to really dig deep, it's controversial also, because remember, we're all non-natives.
Yes,
With a very
that's true.
few exceptions, we're all non-natives.
Okay.
Thank you, Vana. And Councilmember Francina, the Youth Council is working with the Land Conservancy, so we're getting some great advice. So
Yeah,
don't
but
worry.
the Land Conservancy is not always correct.
Okay,
Because
thank
they
you.
have
This is not on the agenda, so we're not going to discuss it. Thank you so much, Vana.
Thank you. Thank
Lovely
you.
to see you.
Thank you.
Will, any other comments online?
We have one last comment online from Larry Steingold. Larry, you can unmute your mic.
Thank you very much. Good evening. Larry Steingold, resident and voter. I may have missed this with the chief, but regarding electric bicycles in the arcade and in Libby Park and in areas where they should not be, I'd like to know what the city and the police are doing about that. Are they installing cameras, or are they doing anything about electric bikes and being where they aren't going to be? Two, regarding park benches, we have the money, it's just in the Maricopa. And walking with groceries 2 miles, we're going to need a lot of park benches. But we have the money, you just need to have the will to do it. And so I think, though, the big thing is actually doing something, getting back to the electric vehicles. What is going to be happening, or is there nothing going on? I'll look for an answer from somebody. Thank you.
Thank you, Larry. That's it, Will?
That's all.
Okay, wonderful. All right, we will move on to the consent calendar. Is there a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I do want to ask a question about item.
Do you want to pull something
Yeah,
first?
pull, is B.
B. Okay, we'll pull B. So we have a motion to approve everything except B. Is a second for that?
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor? Right? Okay.
Aye.
Councilmember Francina?
And I could
Item
add-
B?
Yeah, on page 3, we spent $268,201 for, it says February 24 invoice for January 2024 patrol services. So that's 1 month of patrol services? And that means, can you explain, I mean, not just for me, but for the public, what patrol services, what exactly, just briefly?
I just want to make sure that you didn't want to respond first. I can answer.
Yeah, if I could respond first. So, as a contract agency, we contract for law enforcement support. So,
Yes.
Well, it does say patrol services for one month. That the amount is correct, 1 month is correct, but it's actually far more broad than just patrol services.
Okay.
It's all the services that the County of Ventura Sheriff's Department has to provide. So that's not only just staffing, that's the assets of the vehicles on the streets, that's all the investigative services. So if there were a residential burglary or, God forbid, a homicide,
Yes.
It's all the support services that you're contracting for that, frankly, a city of our size and our scale
Yes, I
could not do
understand.
in-house.
No, that's the clarification.
So it's
I
it's
needed.
more than
Yeah.
just patrol. It's
Yes,
far more
thank
broad.
you. I think that's sufficient then. And that's valley-wide.
That's for our city, so that's our portion.
Okay, this,
That
okay,
we're allocated.
yeah, I do understand. The unincorporated is funded by the county.
Correct. The county supports
Okay.
the unincorporated and actually some extent would subsidize for custody and other demands
Yeah,
they might have.
yeah, yeah. Okay, that explains it. Thank you. Yeah.
Okay, so then we can have a motion to approve B?
Yes.
Yes, second for that?
Motion to approve
All in
B.
favor?
Aye.
Aye?
Aye.
Okay, all right, consent calendar is approved. And congratulations to Karina Wright, our new commissioner on the Arts Commission. Welcome, and Karina, we are so grateful to have your expertise and your background and your willingness to serve and your wonderful demeanor. So thank you very much. Great. All right, we will move on to our items 2 and 3, closed session. We do have one public comment on that item. John Drucker.
Might need a little more than 3 minutes. But good evening, everyone. John Drucker, attorney for Scott Chessay. 2 weeks ago, I alerted you to the fact that the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, whose rulings apply to the Western United States, including the city of Ojai, had, at the very beginning of the year, struck down a Berkeley all-electric ordinance identical in effect to Ojai's. I thus asked you to relieve Mr. Chessay of the need to build an all-electric home. You refused and instead offered him an option to install a gas stove with everything else having to be electric. That was unacceptable. Mr. Summers informed me after your closed session that result came about because he advised you that this Ninth Circuit decision does not apply to Ojai, since Ojai was not a party to the Berkeley lawsuit. As I told him, and I will tell you, Mr. Summers' approach is not only wrong, it is offensive to the rule of law to which every government body should be committed. Article 11, Section 7 of the California Constitution provides that municipalities may enact and enforce ordinances, quote, not in conflict with general law. Under this provision, any ordinance, such as this one, that conflicts with or enters into an area fully occupied by federal general law is preempted and void. It would be like some city council in the Deep South after the Supreme Court's decision in Brown versus Board of Education saying, oh, we don't have to desegregate our schools because that decision only applied to the city of Topeka, Kansas. Now, we would all be outraged at such a stance. And yet that is exactly the strategy that Mr. Summers has had you following here. I would also point out Mr. Summers' approach to the law also unduly serves his financial self-interest. That is because it compels someone in the city of Ojai to bring a lawsuit against the city just to make it comply with what we all know is the established law. Summers and his law firm can then line their pockets by representing the city in that losing lawsuit. So, if you have a commitment to honesty, integrity, and transparency in how you treat the law, you will relieve Mr. Chessay of the obligation to build an all-electric home. He is willing to install electric space heating, but should not be compelled to do so. You should also immediately stop enforcement of the gas ban as you move to repeal it, as Berkeley has already done. Adherence to the rule of law is the highest value of government. Now, I don't want to bring a class action lawsuit against the city to resolve this matter. I really don't, as it would easily cost the city $250,000 or more. But that is the path that Mr. Summers is taking you down. Please turn away from that path.
Thank you, John. Any other comments online? Will?
We have one comment online from Renee.
Yeah, am I allowed to ask a clarifying question of our city attorney, or do I have to wait? Because
it depends on you can ask it depending on
Okay.
the subject. I would answer it in closed
All
session as
right.
opposed to open session.
My understanding was that we did not take the the city council majority didn't take your advice.
We're not going to discuss my closed session advice to the council. All that has been discussed is my response back, to Mr. Drucker, which conveyed the offer as was noted, which his client then rejected.
Okay.
And we'll discuss further in closed session.
Okay.
Mr. Drucker's characterizations of my advice is his characterizations of my advice. We never describe my advice in public because the council hasn't waived privilege. The council could waive privilege, but it hasn't done so.
Okay. Can I waive privilege?
No.
No.
Majority of council can waive privilege.
Okay.
Can Sousa ask?
Yes.
Through the mayor?
Through the mayor, please.
It's a majority of council that can waive the privilege.
Okay. Did I read in your letter that we have the option of having this closed session open?
Yes, every closed session is a exception to the Brown Act's default rule that public business is done in open. And so when the council approves the agenda, as was done tonight and as could be revisited, the council is approving the closed session. Every closed session is a choice for the council to make to hold the closed session or not. So if the council wanted to have this discussion in open session, it could.
Okay. At what point would I make that motion?
Right now, after we finish public comment. Let's
Okay.
finish public comment.
Okay, so we have one additional public comment from Renee. Renee, please unmute your mic.
Thank you. Well, I would actually really like to recommend that you do consider having the discussion not be in a closed meeting. I don't know, I haven't read the standing of what Mr. Chassey's filings are against the city at this point, but I have been following this issue very closely for every city council meeting I can. And I do believe sincerely and honestly that Mr. Chassey is being used in a negative way to try to force his property to be an all-electric property, which is a farce. It's really a farce. And I'm sorry to have to say that, but there's so many other ways that we all know we can go green, go electric, reduce our gas, blah, 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 blah. That the city is taking action now finally to have a climate action plan. Bravo. Thank you. I'm glad you're doing those things. So let's focus on the positive things and the positive ways that we can bring about mitigation changes in our community without holding one person up as the bad guy. Mr. Chassey has been ridiculed and put through a public discourse that is awful. It is unbelievable what he has been through. And I do not wish that on any citizen in our town, to be ridiculed and made statements about in ways that are really not appropriate because he wants to build some housing on his property. And it just doesn't happen to be very convenient to put solar panels on it to make it affordable. I walked over there. I saw the property. I hope you all have been over there, looked at the property. Steve Colomay insists that he is in violation of this, that, and the other. And that's not true. It's just not true. And the Planning Commission allowed him an exemption. The Planning Commission heard and worked with him and allowed him an exemption. So please do the right thing. Hold this in a public way so we can bring it to rest and have the people and the citizens of Ojai know you have their best will at heart in trying to resolve these issues. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Renee. Is that it, Will?
That's it.
Councilmember Francina, you have a motion?
Yes. I want to make, my motion is based on what I read in our privileged letters from our city attorney. And based on those letters, there is, I feel it's important that we make this closed session an open session. This is of great interest to the public, as has been illustrated tonight. And that way, there can be perhaps a more, when our city attorney makes corrections on what was stated, the public can hear it, because I felt that there was some mischaracterization that occurred at the podium from Mr. Chassey's attorney. I'm making a motion that this be an open session. And
Is there a second for that motion?
No second?
Okay.
Well, I was hoping someone else would second it, but I guess I'll have to second it. To me, there is nothing that puts the city at risk, and which would necessitate going into closed session. This is a public issue, and I think that to have it spoken about publicly makes all the sense in the world. This is a reach code that the public is required to follow as it stands right now. And as I understand it, it is in violation of the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeal. But what I also understand is we will have to be sued to follow the law. That to me is astounding, and I would like the public to know that. I would like the public to weigh in on that. I don't understand. I would like the city attorney to tell me why in closed session, what are we putting at risk by going into closed session? What do we have to keep secret that we might otherwise put the city at risk for? To me, the choices, the findings, it's all obvious. It's all clear. It's been discussed. It was discussed in Mr. Chassey's first appeal here. It's been discussed ad nauseum. I don't understand why this council feels like it has to be done in secret. Say what you think and let the people know what you think. It's embarrassing to me that we sit here and we want to go have a closed session and not tell anybody what we think. I'm happy to tell people what I think. It's a disgrace that we are waiting to be sued in order to follow the law.
Okay, council members, any comments?
I thought.
Excuse me, we're gonna take turns and not talk out of turn. Yes, okay, Councilmember Lang.
Yes, I'm really uncomfortable with doing this openly, and that's because we're talking about one of our community members. And I just know that if I were in his position, he's not even here. If we're doing this in an open way, he's not even here. I mean, it's just, I don't feel comfortable with this. And also I'd like to hear, City Attorney, your recommendation.
Yeah, a couple of comments. One, if the council wants to do this in open session, that's fine. We will accept the will of the majority. That would have to, of course, be agendized on the agenda at a meeting, which means it would kick to next time, which would also provide an opportunity for Mr. Chassey to be present if he wished, or his council to be prepared for an open session discussion, and for other members of our community who have expressed strong opinions on both sides to know that it was going to be discussed in open session and be present. Folks would know that on the agenda, so that would be what we would do if that's the vote of the council. My recommendation is to discuss in closed session for the simple reason that when we're discussing a situation where there's several paths, several options, several of which can result in a lawsuit, including several threatened lawsuits, other situations where folks who are on the other side may sue us if we take the opposite outcome. If we're discussing options that are likely or may result in litigation with a significant risk of litigation, it doesn't make sense to do the handicapping of those. Are we going to win or lose, or maybe win, maybe lose, or chances thereof? That handicapping makes no sense when we're discussing all of the options in that closed session discussion before the council majority has made a decision, because we will then be defending whatever that decision is. If the decision is made as one or the other, the opponents of whatever decision the council majority makes will have all of the information to use to challenge that decision. Why would you play poker with your cards face up? That's my recommendation, to use a gambling analogy. If you're going potentially into litigation, you don't want to reveal to your opponent, that is whoever may have sued the city, to challenge whatever decision the council majority makes, don't give them a roadmap to challenge that decision. That's the point of closed session in the litigation context, is to allow the council to have a free and fair discussion of the issues and understand all of the risks and all of the opportunities of the options before them on the particular matter. So with that, this and anything else, my recommendation is to hold the closed session discussion when you're considering threats of litigation against the city. That said, it's a policy choice for the council.
Thank you.
What?
Say again? No, you could always have the closed session tonight and then decide to kick the matter to an open session next time. That's true. That is an option.
Okay, that's good.
Okay, any other?
I'm going to withdraw my motion because I didn't understand the consequences that it would kick it 2 weeks from now, because Mr. Chassie has delayed his projects long enough, and I liked knowing that we could have an open session on this, that we can agendize this in the future, even if we
absolutely.
have a closed session. And eventually, everything in the closed session will be revealed. So,
Not necessarily everything. What gets revealed is the reportable actions are taken.
okay. Can the reportable actions include how much this has cost us in time and money?
If the council majority agrees, yes.
Yeah. When do I make that motion? At the closed session?
In the closed session, once we know what action we're reporting.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so motion is withdrawn, and thank you, Mr. City Attorney, for that comment. And I would agree with your comments. Thank you, and Councilmember Lang. And I think that as council members, we owe it to our city to take care of it. And so I think you explained very well why it's important for us to have a closed session. So thank you for that. So with that, we are ready to adjourn to closed session.
Excuse me.
Unless there's other comments.
Yeah,
I
yes.
do have a question for the city attorney. We have often, well, we're still waiting for reports. Is it not true that you need to eventually report out from a closed session whether or not a vote was taken, or whether or not, I mean, explain to me what a reportable action is, explain to me what a decision is, explain to me the difference when you have a vote versus you don't have a vote, and explain to me whether or not, regardless of all of that, you actually need to have a report out. I mean, can we go in there and say, because we've had lots of closed sessions, and I don't think I can maybe think of one report out we've had. And I know that the statute says a timely report out. And so that, of course, gives a lot of leeway as to what timely means. But what is our obligation when we go in there and we have our discussion? What is our obligation to the audience and to the public about what was discussed, how it was discussed? So that's my question. And I know it's up to the council to decide, I suppose, how much we reveal. Is that true? I mean, is there a baseline of what we must reveal?
Yes. The statutory requirement is to report out what are called reportable actions taken. That's a summary of a statutory phrase with a law book shelf's worth of cases behind it. But the summary is an action taken that concludes a settlement agreement. Concludes, not the offer. The offer doesn't form a contract. Offer acceptance consideration creates a contract. So if we make an offer out and they haven't yet accepted it, making the offer is not a reportable action. Direction to file a lawsuit is reportable, but only once the lawsuit's been filed. We haven't initiated litigation since, but you were not on council. That was reported out, direction given to initiate litigation, but then there's no obligation to then come back in public and report again, oh, we filed the lawsuit, because the filing of the lawsuit is itself public. Direction is given to appeal. That is a reportable action again. Direction is though the direction is reported out after you file the notice of appeal. Direction on a closed session regarding real estate negotiations, where we're negotiating price in terms of payment. There, the direction is if the council's action concludes the contract, we've approved the request to buy the property at X dollars, that is reportable. Most of the time, though, we don't have a reportable action there because we simply make an offer. We're never the final signatory. As is inherent in what I'm saying, most of the time there's not a reportable action because the council doesn't take action. They provide direction, which is an action. Now, if the action, if that's the reality, But
Okay.
hold on, I'm not finished.
No, please.
So if the action taken is one of these things, and there's a long further list, if it's a concrete action taken by the council, that action gets reported, but not at the time, doesn't need to be reported that night if the action isn't self-required to be reported that night. For my example of direction to file an appeal of an adverse ruling of the trial court doesn't have to get reported until you file the notice of appeal, because you don't have to tell your opponent that you're going to appeal the decision when they still have time to do something about that. Similarly, direction to file a lawsuit, the same better example there. Direction to file a lawsuit is reported out that night as direction was given to initiate litigation, the details of which will be available when the lawsuit is filed. So in many situations, simply direction can be given for an action that then is taken later in open session, and the agenda being put on the agenda item being put in the open session agenda reflects the closed session direction to do this or that, bring back an ordinance that does this, or bring back an ordinance that does that, to solve a lawsuit which will be dismissed if the city does this or does that. That doesn't create reportable action. If there is a hard vote taken, that's reportable only if the action that the vote did is reportable. If the vote taken doesn't generate a reportable action, but the vote is merely a split on direction, that's not reportable. I know that one is a point of disagreement. Some Brown Act purists would argue, oh, vote must be reported, period. I disagree with that. My advice to the council is always you report actions taken, and if there is a split vote, you report out the split vote as well on that action taken. If it's merely consensus that staff proposes something and staff will do it within their authority, then that doesn't need to be reported because it's not an action taken.
Okay.
So on all of the above, though, this is the baseline minimums. The council can always report above that.
Yes,
and the council has, I'm not finished, the council has directed that previously to report above the minimums, as we've done on a number of occasions in the current council and before. And in the end, what I report out is what the council has done. I report the baseline unless the council directs me to report more, and I obviously am happy to report more, as the majority may direct.
Okay.
The majority could also waive privilege on all the discussions, as was done previously about 6 or 7 years ago on another matter. So there's options if the council wants to increase transparency. What I've described are the statutory minimums.
Okay, through the mayor very quickly. That was my question really, was if a vote is taken, because I know that has been a gray area. If a vote is taken, and you're saying that if a vote is taken and it's not a reportable action, then it's not, the vote doesn't need to be reported.
Because there's no reportable action.
Okay, thank you. That was really the heart of my question.
Through the mayor, if I can just maybe help clarify just a bit. Everything Matt said is entirely correct. Typically, closed session, we're looking for direction, and we're usually looking for direction on kind of the broader deal points. If it's labor negotiations, if it's property transactions, if it's litigation, and usually we're getting direction, but there's still finite details that need to be worked out with staff. If it's a property transaction, we're looking at maybe what's the range, what are some of the things you might be looking for. If it's labor negotiations, what are you comfortable with, what policies. So there's not something that's finite, put to rest to vote on. It's giving staff direction on, here you go, finish out the deal of whatever it might be, and then you see that in the future on an open session item for council to vote on. We got the broader strokes of what the council wants in closed session. Staff and the city attorneys worked out the details. Here it is, finalized to vote on in open session.
If I could just pick up on that example, labor negotiations is a perfect example. The council can provide direction in closed session that we'd like to see a raise at 2%, 4%, 6%, or 8%. Pick a percent. That is broad direction, not reportable action. That direction is an action because the approval of the budget necessary and the salary schedule adjustments is all open session action that can only be taken in open session. So the council in closed session gives direction, say, let's do 4% this year. That then comes back on an open session agenda with the salary schedule resolutions, et cetera, that affect that. It's not action taken because it was direction on a policy level in closed session that doesn't mean anything until it's voted on in open session. Thank you.
Okay, Councilmember Francina.
But on the other hand, if there's a split vote with the direction, I heard you say that you're not obligated to say it was a split vote, but council can ask that
The majority can ask that I report that out, not the minority.
Okay.
Now, the majority might be willing to let the minority report it out,
Okay, I mean, the public already knows that from the very beginning, Councilmember Rule and I were opposed to everything that's now occurring, the consequences.
Right.
You know, we
folks are
we
watching.
did
This
not-
started an open session.
Yeah,
Folks understand that.
we voted to allow the exemption for Mr. Chassis. And that's why I am so asking these questions, and especially the consequences of this, the cost, the time. We have so much on our plate. It's just, and I find it so annoying.
Well, then, can I suggest we move on to closed session at this point? Okay, all right, we are adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Closed session. Mr. City Attorney, anything to report out?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. The City Council considered two items: interrelated threats of litigation and anticipated litigation related to a Reach Codes appeal by Mr. Scott Chassé. The Council provided direction to the City Manager to reach a resolution with Mr. Chassé and direction to take up a broader ordinance discussion regarding improving the Reach Codes ordinance. And that will be coming forward at a future meeting. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We will move on to council member reports. Anyone have anything to report? Yep.
Yes. So I just wanted to report that I attended a policy committee meeting for the Tax and Revenue Policy Committee, and learned some new ways that the state is proposing to meet up with the budget deficit. And there's going to be a Meet the Legislators event later in April, in a couple of weeks. And we're going to be doing some lobbying on behalf of the California League of Cities. So I'll report back anything exciting that happens from that event.
Wonderful, thank you. Anyone else?
I'll just report that.
Microphone, please.
I just want to report that my granddaughters and I visit the Humane Society a lot. And right now, there are the most incredible family-type dogs. I don't know, I think they must be there. They must have come from a good home. They're just so sweet and friendly. So anyone out there that's thinking of adopting a dog, there's one named Chip. He's my favorite. He brings the ball and drops it so that you can reach through the gate opening for the ball, and then we throw it over the fence, and then he comes back. And you can just tell by he's full of love and good energy. He hasn't been there so long that he's gotten traumatized. So now's a good time to go and adopt Chip or any other beautiful dog. They have so many that are incredibly wonderful.
Great, thank you for
I'll
that.
do this every
Go Chip.
city
Anyone else? Councilmember Rule.
So on Saturday, I went to the Green Coalition's gathering for the vernal equinox, and it was a wonderful meet and greet and potluck, and I'd say there were about 20 people there, wide range of Ojai represented, and it was a wonderful event, quite lovely. So once again, they are still working towards engaging the community in next steps and what's going on, and everyone was very appreciative, and a lot of really delicious food.
Thank you for attending. I couldn't go. Thank you.
I would like to once again thank Chief Newman for Pizza with the Police at Air Pizza last week. It was a really great event. Lots of police officers showed up, lots of kids, and it was really, really wonderful. So thank you, Chief Newman, and the police department. Okay, anybody else? We'll ready to adjourn? Okay, well, thank you all for,
City Manager's report.
I'm sorry, City Manager's report.
I'll keep it brief, but I did want to share some very, very good news with the council. So this morning, and this is the hard work of Ben, Lindy, and Matt. I just get to simply share the news, but this morning the Ventura County Board of Supervisors approved a 10-year land use agreement with the City of Ojai for use of Soul Park for pickleball courts. So it's been approved by the Board of Supervisors.
Oh, Oh, I listened to the beginning of the meeting.
Well,
I'm going to go look it up.
That's fantastic
So
news.
it's on the agenda and approved, and then thank you to Supervisor Matt Levere's office for moving that. I don't think I've ever seen something move so quickly with a county
All right,
agency.
we're going to send him a nice
Well,
note.
thank you, Supervisor Levere. All right, well,
City staff is hard at work on the annual budget for this coming fiscal year, and we'll be having a series of meetings with the council specifically on budget, starting with the capital improvement program. I'm very excited. Lindy's put together one of the best CIP documents I've seen. So we'll be starting there and probably do it over the course of 2 days.
great. Well, ending with that wonderful news is a great way to end. So thank you very much, and we are adjourned.